Hey everybody, welcome to the 20th episode of Texas History in 2020. This is a huge deal. We're in 2020 and this is the 20th episode. I may be looking for little facts to make this interesting, but that's the case. It's crazy to think that now we've relied on video lectures 20 times. Now in this class, I never would have seen this coming, but we're making do with what we have. Appreciate you guys and all the hard work you've been putting in, especially now that we're towards the end of this school year. And I miss you guys tremendously. Miss just seeing you every day, being able to teach you guys, and hopefully before the school year ends, we can have a video chat with Google Meet with each period, so I can say goodbye to you, awesome students, and end the year on a good note. So we're going to pick up with the Great Depression, chapter 23. This lecture will cover pages 582 through 585, and we finished with World War I and the Roaring Twenties. And we're now moving into the phase of American history of the Great Depression. And we're going to look at the Great Depression and how it affected Texas specifically. And so that means we pick up with Roman numeral 1, Texas and hard times. Toward the end of the 1920s, many Texans were optimistic about the economy. In fact, we talked how it was called the age of advertising, the Roaring Twenties. People were living lifestyles of luxury. They were living lifestyles of excess. They were spending money they didn't have, the credit, on consumer goods so that they could have the newest and best items. But this type of lifestyle is going to cause a dramatic change in the economy. And this is where we talk about the Great Depression. Even though farmers and ranchers struggled, the Texas economy was still booming because of the oil industry. And we said that the automobile industry was booming as well because of the need for oil. But it wasn't until October 29th, 1929, that the stock market crashed. Now, the stock market is an industry where people can buy and sell stocks. Stocks are shares or portions of ownership of a company. So you can go and buy one stock of Google if you want. And that means you own one stock of that company. Now, the people who really are the big movers and shakers and the owners of Google, they own a large or the major percentage of stocks in that company, meaning they get more control. So the more stocks of a company you own, the more control you have over that company. Well, also, what goes into owning stocks? Let's say that you do buy a share of Google and Google does really well and starts making a lot of money. That means because you have a stock in that company, you are going to make some money as well. But if Google does bad and starts losing money, you are going to lose money because of your investment in Google. What really affects a lot of Americans here is that they were buying large portions of stocks and companies, but they weren't buying it with their own money. They were buying it on credit, meaning they were taking a loan from the bank. The bank was giving them money to buy stocks. Then these people were hoping that the stock prices would soar. They would make more money and therefore be able to pay off their loan to the bank and have money left over in their pocket. It's a risk. It's a gamble. It's what we call speculation. And so on October 29th, 1929, we experienced what was called Black Tuesday. You need to know that. The stock market crashed. All of these stocks began crashing to an all-time low, meaning people were losing money. Not only are they losing their own money, but they're not going to be able to pay off those loans from the bank. And so now they owe even more money to the bank. And so because stock prices were dropping, people began trying to sell them really quick, which threw the market into an economic panic. Black Tuesday ushered in what we call the Great Depression, which would last from 1929 to 1945. Now, those dates, it's hard to put a hard end date to a phase or an era like the Great Depression, but that's what historians generally try to mark the Great Depression as, from 1929 to 1945. Because stock prices had fallen so low, investors were not able to pay off their loans. And so this, along with slowed economic activity, caused banks to fail and factories to close. Because think about it. If people aren't able to pay off their loans, the banks who gave these people that money, they're not getting any money in return. And so they also are going out of business. But Texas crop prices fell even lower, and the lumber industry also suffered in Texas. So Texas is struggling agriculturally as well. So President Hoover, Herbert Hoover, who was president of the United States at the time, he did not believe that the government should intervene. He says, you know what? He goes, this economic panic was really caused by people's bad decisions and by the bank's bad decisions to loan so much money and people buying so many things on credit. He said, it's really the fault of you for making these bad decisions. He said, it shouldn't be the government's responsibility to just hand out money to people, especially when we, the government, are already in debt. So he relied on state and local governments, churches, charities, and individuals to provide financial relief. But there was a boom in oil during this time. Even though cotton prices were dropping, oil was still doing well. During the Great Depression, a wildcatter, which is a nickname given to an independent oil driller, you need to know that. So a wildcatter named Columbus Joyner found oil near Kilgore, Texas, which is in East Texas. One city block in Kilgore, this is how much oil the city had, by the way. One city block in Kilgore had 44 wells placed on it. That's how many people came to Kilgore in order to drill for oil. That's how much oil was underneath the city of Kilgore. But with a lot of oil comes the related drop in prices. Because you have so much oil, now the oil prices drop. And so the Texas Railroad Commission ordered small companies in East Texas to regulate their production. They said, listen, you're going to drive these companies out of business because prices are going to drop and you have more oil than what's really needed. They said, so you actually need to control the amount of oil that you're drilling. They said, so what people are having to do, just to give you an idea, instead of just drilling as much as they can and the price is dropping, they said, if you control how much you drill and limit how much you drill per day or per week or per month, then the prices will be even, okay, and they'll be more stable. So the Texas Railroad Commission ordered that these small companies regulate their production, but the small companies refused to follow the regulations. They said, no, we're going to keep drilling as much as we want in order to make a lot of money. And so they were selling what we call hot oil. Which means it was oil that was not legally sold because it was oil that was produced after they had reached their regulated limit of production. So the National Guard troops were called in to maintain order, and by 1935, because the National Guard were called in to make sure these companies were following the protocol, oil prices had stabilized. But cotton production also needed to be limited because now there was an excess in cotton. Cotton prices were dropping and farmers were losing money. So the Texas legislature tried to regulate cotton production as well, but their efforts were ruled unconstitutional. People were saying, who are you to tell me how much cotton I can plant? Who are you to tell me as a farmer how much I can produce? It's not the government's job to regulate that. And so the Texas legislature was not able to regulate how much cotton was produced. And that is where we are going to stop in today's lesson. You have no homework today, so enjoy that. I hope you have a great rest of the day. Stay safe and healthy.